Level 1, L3, New Grad. You have an offer letter and a start date and a total compensation package that you have calculated, recalculated, and sent to your parents in a screenshot. Base salary, $130,000. RSU, grant $80,000 vesting over 4 years. Signing bonus, $20,000. You divided it by 12, then by 52. Then, by the number of hours you estimated you'd work in a week, and then you stopped doing that math because the number that came out was still good and you didn't want to ruin it. You're 22. You have a computer science degree and a behavioral interview answer about leadership that you wrote in a Google Doc and practiced in front of a mirror until it stopped sounding like you'd practiced it. You survived 4 rounds. A technical phone screen where you solved a binary tree problem while the recruiter listened silently. A virtual on-site with 2 coding rounds, a system design, and a behavioral with a hiring committee you will never meet again. You got the offer, you accepted in 4 hours because the recruiter said the window was 48 hours, and you weren't sure if that was real, but you weren't going to find out. Now you're here. First day, the badge works. That surprises you slightly. You had a specific fear that it wouldn't, based on nothing, and the fact that it does feel like a small proof that you belong. The campus is the size of a small city. There are shuttles. There are 4 free cafeterias within walking distance of your building. There is a gym, a doctor's office, a dry cleaner, and a barber shop, all on campus, all subsidized, which is a design choice that you will understand differently in 2 years than you understand it today. Your team was assigned through a matching process. You listed preferences. The org listed needs. An algorithm reconciled the two. Your manager seems competent and busy. The codebase is 12 years old and structured with the architectural logic of a city that kept building roads without ever tearing down the original ones. Your onboarding task is to fix a bug in a service you have never heard of that depends on 3 other services you have also never heard of. The bug takes you 3 weeks. A senior engineer on your team could have fixed it in 40 minutes. You know this. The senior engineer knows this. Nobody says it. Your ramp period is 6 months. They don't call it a probationary period. They call it a ramp period. It means the same thing. You have 6 months to demonstrate that you can operate at the level they hired you for, which is a level they defined internally using criteria that were not shared with you during the interview and will not be shared with you now. You will find out how you're doing in your first performance review. The performance review is in 5 months. You eat lunch at your desk for the first 6 weeks because the cafeteria is vast and free and full of people who all seem to know each other, and you don't know how to enter a conversation that is already happening. Eventually, a senior engineer on your team asks if you want to get lunch. You say yes. It is the best professional decision you make in your first year. Level 2, L4, Software Engineer. You didn't get promoted from L3. You were hired directly at L4, which means you either came from a strong company with a clear track record, or you negotiated hard enough during the offer process that the recruiter escalated your level to close the deal. Either way, you're 25. Your base is $175,000. Total compensation with RSUs and bonus lands around $280,000. You have been at the company for 8 months. You own a feature, not a system. A feature, a ranking signal in a recommendation algorithm that affects what 200 million people see when they open the app on a Tuesday morning. You shipped it. You watched the metrics. The primary metric moved 0.4% in the right direction. A 0.4% improvement at this scale affects more people than live in the country where you grew up. Your manager said good work in your one-on-one. You said thanks. That was the ceremony. The performance review cycle runs twice a year. You are in the second one now. The rating scale has 5 levels. Does not meet, partially meets, meets, exceeds, strongly exceeds. You need meets to keep your job. You need 2 consecutive exceeds to get promoted. You got meets in your first cycle. The engineer 3 desks from you, who shipped roughly the same amount of work, got exceeds. You cannot figure out why. You ask your manager in a one-on-one phrased carefully, the way you phrase things at this company, because everything here is phrased carefully. Your manager explains that impact is about more than output, that visibility matters, that you should be sharing your work more broadly in engineering forums and cross-team channels and the monthly newsletter that 3 VPs actually read. You nod. You do not say that you were hired to write code and not to market yourself to a newsletter. You go back to your desk. You start leaving comments on other teams' design documents. You present your ranking signal work at the next engineering all hands. You get exceeds in the next cycle. The promotion review is in 3 months. You do not know if you are on the list. Nobody tells you if you're on the list. You find out by being promoted or by not being promoted, and if you are not promoted, your manager schedules a 30-minute one-on-one to discuss your growth areas, which is a phrase that means the reasons you were not promoted, rephrased in a way that centers your development rather than the committee's decision. You are learning a second job inside the first one. The first job is engineering. The second job is the performance of engineering in a way that the people who decide your level can see and evaluate and rank against the people doing the same second job around you. Both jobs are required. Only one of them was in the job description. Level 3, L5, Senior Software Engineer. This is where most people stop. Not because they fail, because L5 is genuinely good, and genuinely good is a harder place to leave than people expect. You're 29. Your base is $220,000. Total compensation in a good year touches $420,000. You have a financial advisor your company recommended through a benefits portal, which tells you something about the salary band you are now inside. You lead projects. You write design documents. A design document is a 12-page Google Doc that explains what you plan to build, why you plan to build it, what alternatives you considered, and why you rejected them. You spend a week writing it. It goes into review. 6 engineers comment. 2 of the comments are substantive. 3 are about the alternatives section. 1 suggesting an alternative you considered and explicitly rejected in paragraph 7. Another asking about a trade-off you addressed in the appendix. A third that is mostly a compliment phrased as a question. You respond to all of them. You make small changes to signal that the review process shaped the document. You build what you plan to build before the review. The work is good. That part is real and should be said clearly. The problems are genuinely interesting. The systems are genuinely complex. The scale at which small decisions propagate into large real-world effects is genuinely unlike anything available at most other employers. You are not unhappy. That is a precise statement and not a hedge. What you are is comfortable. You feel it arriving around month 18 at this level. A specific settling, a reduction in the background anxiety that drove you through the first 4 years. The anxiety was unpleasant. What replaced it is pleasant. What it replaced it with is also in ways you're only beginning to notice. The quieting of the thing that got you here. 2 engineers who were L3 when you were L4 are now L5 with you. One of them is faster than you were at their age. You see this clearly. You are helpful to them in your one-on-ones and you mean the help genuinely. You also notice that you are hoping, in a way you would not say out loud, that the promotion committee moves slowly this cycle. You have 4 years of unvested RSUs. The current share price means those 4 years are worth $380,000. Every morning you open the stock app before you open your laptop. This is new. You didn't do this at L3. At L3 you checked the stock because the number was interesting. Now you check it because the number is structural. It is part of how you understand your options, and your options are what determine whether you stay or whether staying is still a choice you're making rather than a default you've stopped questioning. You have not questioned it in 8 months. The comfort and the unvested RSUs are 2 different things that produce the same behavior. You ship the next project. You start the next design document. The review opens. Someone suggests an alternative you already addressed in the appendix. Level 4, L6, Staff Engineer. Less than 30% of engineers who start at L3 reach this level. You are one of them. You're 34. Your base is $280,000. Total compensation with RSUs and bonus landed at $680,000 last year. You said that number out loud once to your spouse on the night the annual statement arrived, and then neither of you said it again because there is a specific silence that follows a number that size. Not discomfort exactly, more like the recognition that you have crossed into a category of compensation that requires a different vocabulary than the one you grew up with, and you haven't learned that vocabulary yet, and you're not sure you want to. Your scope is no longer a feature, it is a system. Sometimes it is multiple systems across 3 teams that you don't manage but are expected to align, unblock, and steer through what the org calls technical leadership and what actually means being right in meetings in a way that makes other engineers choose to follow your direction without being told to. Authority at this level is entirely informal. You have no direct reports. You have no org chart line that runs through you. What you have is a track record and a reputation, and the specific credibility that comes from having been right about the hard technical questions often enough that people stop arguing with you before they finish their own sentence. You are in the golden handcuffs now. This is the official term. It is used openly in conversations by your manager, by your skip level, by the engineers around you who are also in them. Nobody uses it with irony. It is just the name of the thing. Every 6 months, your unvested RSU balance is recalculated. The company refreshes your grant. The refresh is designed to ensure that leaving always costs more than it did 6 months ago. Not maliciously, structurally. It is an incentive system that works exactly as intended, which is to say, it works on you exactly as it was designed to work on you. And knowing that doesn't change the math. You keep a spreadsheet, private Google Drive folder, shared with no one. It has a RAW for every 6-month period for the next 4 years. It shows what you would forfeit if you left at each interval. The numbers in the column get smaller over time as grants vest and larger over time as new grants are added. The net effect is that there is never a window where leaving is cheap. You update the spreadsheet every January and July. You have been updating it for 3 years. You have not left. The work is the most technically interesting it has ever been. That is also true, and also not enough. And also the reason you stay, or one of the reasons, layered over the spreadsheet reason, and you are not always certain which reason is doing more of the work on a given morning when you open your laptop and begin. You got here by being better than the people around you for 10 years in a row. The strange thing about LL6, the thing that took you 18 months to understand, is that being better is no longer the point. The point is making the people around you better. The engineers who are L3 and L4 on your adjacent teams, the ones who remind you of yourself at 24 with the same nervous competence and the same habit of over-engineering solutions to simple problems. They are the work now. Your code matters. Their growth matters more. The organization scales through them. You scale through them. You are only beginning to be at peace with this. Your unvested balance is $420,000. You open the spreadsheet, you close the spreadsheet, you open your laptop. Level 5, L7, Senior Staff Engineer. Fewer than 10% of engineers who enter this industry at the level you entered it reach this title. You're 39. Total compensation last year was $1.1 million. You did not celebrate when you crossed 7 figures for the first time. You noticed it. You told your spouse. You went to dinner at a restaurant you'd been meaning to try. The food was good. The number didn't feel the way you thought it would feel when you were 25, and the number was theoretical. What it felt like was a confirmation of something you already knew, which is the least satisfying kind of feeling there is. Your scope is the organization, not a system, not a set of systems. The technical direction of an entire product area that 800 million people interact with daily without knowing your name or your title or the decisions you made in a conference room on a Tuesday that shape the thing they're using on a Friday. You are in meetings with vice presidents. You are the technical voice in rooms that are mostly composed of business people who think in quarters and market share and headcount. You translate between what is architecturally possible and what leadership has decided they want to be true, which are frequently different things, and the distance between them is where you live professionally. In the gap, building the bridge, explaining patiently to both sides why the bridge takes longer than the business wants and costs more than the engineering team has capacity for. You have been at this company for 14 years. You remember the product you now help architect when it was a prototype someone shipped in a hackathon. You remember the engineer who built the prototype. He left 9 years ago, joined a startup. The startup raised a Series B, ran out of runway, got acqui-hired by a competitor. He is now at that competitor at a level roughly equivalent to L6. He has more autonomy than you do, less money, a smaller footprint, more of something else you don't have a clean word for. You think about him occasionally on the shuttle, not with envy exactly, with a specific kind of curiosity about the road not taken. Not because you regret the road you took, but because you are far enough down it now that you can see clearly it was a choice. And choices that look like gravity when you're making them start to look like decisions when you look back from a distance. You have two analysts who support your technical work. They are both excellent. You have a standing one-on-one with your VP every 2 weeks. The VP asks for your opinion on acquisition targets. Last quarter, you reviewed the architecture of a company the organization was considering purchasing. You wrote a 4-page internal memo. The VP shared it with the SVP. The SVP shared it with the CEO. The acquisition did not go through, partly for reasons in your memo. You found this out 3 months later in passing, in a hallway conversation. The way important things at this level are communicated, sideways, informally, between other topics. Your children are 12 and 9. Your spouse has a career that is serious and demanding and has been accommodating your schedule for 11 years in ways that have never been formally acknowledged by either of you, because acknowledging them would require a conversation about what they cost. And the conversation has always been something you'd have later. Later keeps moving. The unvested balance is $890,000. You stopped updating the spreadsheet 2 years ago, not because you planned to leave, because you understood somewhere around year 12 that the spreadsheet was a way of keeping the possibility of leaving alive in a drawer without ever actually opening the drawer, and you decided that was no longer honest, and you closed the file, and you have not opened it since. Level 6, L8, Principal Engineer. There are fewer than 60 people at this level company-wide. The company has 80,000 employees. You are one of 60. You're 44. Total compensation last year was $1.8 million. Your equity refresh requires sign-off from a senior vice president. You found this out when your manager told you, almost apologetically, as though the oversight structure for your compensation was something that required explanation rather than simply being the natural consequence of the number. You set technical direction for the company, not a team, not a product area, the company. You are involved in decisions that will determine what this organization is capable of building for the next 5 years, which means you are making decisions about systems that do not yet exist, using your understanding of systems that currently exist in service of a business strategy that will change at least twice before those systems ship. This requires a specific kind of thinking, not just analytical, but longitudinal. The ability to hold a 10-year arc in your head while also being useful in a 1-hour meeting about a caching problem. You write internal memos that the CEO reads. You know this because the CEO has responded to 2 of them with follow-up questions, sent through an EA with a 48-hour response window implied by the tone. You responded in 6 hours both times. You did not decide to do this. It was simply the obvious thing. You review architecture for potential acquisitions. You sit on the technical advisory panel for 2 internal AI research initiatives. You are asked to speak at the company's annual engineering summit, not because you submitted a talk proposal, but because someone from the events team emailed your EA. You have an EA now, have had one for 18 months, and still experience a small jolt of disorientation when you say that in a sentence, as though the words belong to a description of someone else's life that you have somehow wandered into. Your 3 reports are all L6 or L7. They are each individually more expert in their specific domain than you are in theirs. You lead them anyway, not through technical depth, through context, through the organizational map you carry in your head, through the ability to look at a problem in one domain and recognize its structural similarity to a problem solved in a completely different domain 3 years ago. This is what principal engineers do. They are not the smartest people in any room. They are the people who have been in the most rooms and retain the most from each one. You are 44. You have been in this industry for 22 years. Your father worked at the same company for 28 years and retired with a pension and a plaque. You used to think that story was a cautionary tale about smallness of ambition. You think about it differently now. Not with envy. Your father's life was not your life and should not have been, but with a kind of revised respect for what it means to stay inside something long enough to understand it completely. You are beginning to understand this company completely. That is either the beginning of something or the end of something, and you are not yet sure which. Your children are 17 and 14. The 17-year-old is applying to universities. She asked you last month whether she should study computer science. You thought about the question for longer than she expected. You said, "Study what makes you curious." She said that was a non-answer. You said, "Yes." She laughed. You meant it as more than a non-answer. You did not know how to say what you meant. The conversation moved on. There is a distinguished engineer panel review next quarter. Your name is on the list. Your manager told you in a tone that was not quite a guarantee, but was not a guarantee either. You have been inside this company long enough to read the difference. You open your laptop. There are 19 unread messages. 3 of them are from VPs. 1 is from the CEO's office. You start with that one. Level 7. Distinguished Engineer. Fellow. Google has approximately 12 fellows company-wide. Meta has around 20 distinguished engineers. The company you work for has 9. You are one of them. You're 49. Your compensation is approved by the board. Last year it was $3.4 million. The number stopped meaning anything concrete around $1.5 million. Above that, it's a score. A record of how many times you were right about the hard questions before the rest of the industry caught up. You define what is technically possible for the next decade, not for a team, not for a product, for the company's understanding of its own ceiling. You publish research. You advise on strategic bets that will not ship until you are closer to retirement than you are to today. Your name appears in papers that PhD students cite without knowing you are still employed, still working, still in the building 3 floors up from where they imagine you must be by now. You are invited to speak at conferences not because you submitted a proposal, but because the organizer emailed your EA 6 months in advance and asked what topic you'd be willing to address. You chose one. You gave the talk. Afterward, a 24-year-old engineer from a university in a country you've never visited waited at the edge of the stage to ask you a question about distributed systems. The question was good. You talked for 11 minutes. You missed your car to the airport. You didn't mind. You got here by being right more often than everyone around you for 25 years. For 25 years, being right was enough. Now you are in a room where being right is assumed, where the baseline expectation is correctness, and what's actually required is something quieter and harder. The patience to let someone younger arrive at the right answer themselves. The willingness to be wrong in public without it threatening the structure of who you are. The genuine desire to make the engineers 2 decades behind you better than you were at their age. Some fellows become that, some don't. The ones who don't are brilliant obstacles. Technically correct, humanly immovable, the kind of person junior engineers route their design reviews around rather than through. The ones who do become the reason someone else makes fellow 20 years from now. You think about which one you are. You think you know. You are not completely certain. The uncertainty is appropriate. It keeps you honest in a way that certainty, at this level, no longer would. Your youngest starts university in September. You will be at the orientation. You blocked it on your calendar 8 months ago and have declined 2 VP requests to move it. Nobody pushed back on the decline. That is one of the few unambiguous privileges this level carries, the ability to protect a Saturday in September without explanation. The cycle. Right now, in a university library somewhere, a junior is on their 4th hour of LeetCode, medium difficulty. They have a spreadsheet open in another tab. Companies ranked by total compensation, with columns for base, RSU, bonus, and an unlabeled column where they've been writing notes about culture. Google is at the top. The culture note says, prestige, free food, smart people. There is no column for what it costs. They haven't built that column yet. Nobody does at 21. They'll get the offer, they'll accept it in 4 hours because the window is 48 hours, and they won't risk it. They'll walk in on day 1. The badge will work. The cafeteria will be extraordinary. The code base will be a disaster. They'll fix a bug that takes 3 weeks, and a senior engineer could have done in 40 minutes. They'll stay. They'll ship. They'll learn the second job inside the first job. They'll update the spreadsheet, and then they'll stop updating it, and then they'll open it one more time and close it for good.